Stop. Just for a moment, stop everything you're doing. Put your phone down if you need to. Take a breath. And really listen. Not just hear the words. Listen to what they mean. Because there is something about your life that you already know. Maybe you've known it for years. Maybe you've tried to ignore it. Maybe you've buried it underneath work, entertainment, relationships, excuses, distractions, and endless promises that tomorrow will be different. But somewhere in it said, you know there is more in you. More discipline, more courage, more potential, more life. And yet, you're still waiting for the right time, waiting for motivation, waiting for money, waiting for someone to believe in you, waiting for life to become easier, waiting until you finally feel ready. But what if I told you, ready is never coming? What if the perfect moment you've been waiting for doesn't exist? And what if the person you've been waiting for to change your life isn't coming either? Nobody is coming to hand you discipline. Nobody is coming to give you confidence. Nobody is coming to erase your mistakes. Nobody is coming to build your future. And nobody is coming to become the person you keep promising yourself you'll become at first. That sounds terrifying. But stay with me. Because there is another side to that truth. A side that can completely change your life. If nobody is coming, then you are finally free to begin. You don't need permission. You don't need perfect circumstances. You don't need everyone to understand. You don't even need to know exactly how you're going to get there. You just need to take responsibility for the next step. So for the next 20 minutes, I want you to forget about becoming perfect. Forget about changing your entire life overnight. Instead, let's talk about becoming the person who finally stops waiting. The person who decides, this is my life. This is my responsibility. And I'm ready to build it. That moment can change everything. There is a moment in almost every life when an uncomfortable realization arrives. For some people, after losing someone they love. For some, it comes after achieving something they thought would make them happy, only to discover that they still feel empty. And sometimes it comes on an ordinary Tuesday. Nothing dramatic happens. You simply wake up, look around, and realize, I don't want to keep living like this. That's the moment. The moment you realize nobody is coming. Nobody is going to knock on your door and fix your life. Nobody is going to give you the discipline you haven't built. Nobody is going to force you to wake up early. Nobody is going to make you study. Nobody is going to build your business. Nobody is going to repair your broken habits. Nobody is going to carry your dreams across the finish line. And that realization hurts because it removes the last comfortable excuse. You can no longer say, I'll start when someone supports me. You can no longer say, I'll change when circumstances get better. You can no longer say, I'll become successful when the opportunity finally arrives. Because maybe the circumstances won't change. Maybe the opportunity won't arrive. Maybe nobody will come. And that's when you discover something powerful. Responsibility isn't a prison. Responsibility is freedom. Because the moment you accept that your life belongs to you, you stop waiting for someone else to change it. You can act. You can learn. You can rebuild. You can fail. You can try again. You can start over. You can make a different decision tomorrow than the decision you made yesterday. That's why nobody is coming isn't a hopeless maybe is coming. It's an empowering one. Because if nobody is coming, then you don't have to wait anymore. You can begin. And maybe your first step isn't impressive. Maybe it's just getting out of bed. Maybe it's opening the book. Maybe it's turning off the distraction. Maybe it's applying for the opportunity. Maybe it's starting the business with almost nothing. Maybe it's finally having the conversation you've been avoiding. It doesn't matter how small the first step is. What matters is that you take it. Because the person who changes their life isn't the person who waits for the perfect moment. It's the person who decides, I'm starting with what I have. Now think about a tree. Imagine two trees. One grows inside a perfect greenhouse. It has controlled temperature, perfect water, no violent winds, no freezing nights, no brutal storms. Everything is protected. It grows tall. But there is one problem. It has never been forced to become strong. Now imagine another tree, growing on the side of a mountain. The wind hits it every season. The ground becomes dry. The temperature changes. Storms arrive. Branches break. And every time the wind pushes, the tree has to adapt. Its roots go deeper. The storm comes again. The roots go deeper. Another season passes. The tree becomes stronger. From the outside, it may look rough. Maybe it's bent. Maybe it's bent. Maybe its branches aren't perfect. But underneath the ground, there is something powerful. Roots. Deep roots. Roots built by difficulty. And maybe that's what your difficult seasons have been doing to you. Maybe that failure wasn't just failure. Maybe it was teaching you resilience. Maybe that rejection wasn't the end. Maybe it was teaching you that your worth cannot depend on someone's approval. Maybe the loneliness wasn't punishment. Maybe it was teaching you how to stand without applause. Maybe the struggle wasn't destroying you. Maybe it was developing you. Because life doesn't always ask you what you're ready for. Sometimes the storm simply arrives. You don't choose it. You don't control it. But you do have a choice. You can allow the storm to break you, or you can allow it to deepen your roots. The storm isn't your choice. Your response is. And that response becomes your character. So stop asking only, why is this happening to me? Ask something better. What can this build in me? Because one day, the thing you thought was destroying you may become the exact thing that made you strong enough for the life you wanted. When something goes wrong, most people immediately ask, why me? Why is this happening? Why now? Why can't my life just be easier? Why does everyone else seem to be moving forward? Those questions are natural, but they keep your attention on the problem. Instead, ask, what is this trying to teach me? What skill am I missing? What skill am I missing? What weakness is? What habit needs to change? What truth am I refusing to accept? What can I learn from this? Because every experience contains information. Failure tells you something. Rejection tells you something. Loss tells you something. Mistakes tell you something. Even embarrassment can teach you something. The goal isn't to avoid every painful experience. That's impossible. The goal is to make sure your pain produces something valuable. Don't waste the lesson. If you fail, learn. Learn. If you fail, learn. If something doesn't work, change the approach. If a door closes, look for another door. But don't sit forever staring at the closed one, because your future isn't waiting inside your past. Your future is waiting inside your next decision. There is an enemy you need to understand. It doesn't look dangerous. It feels good. It's called comfort. Comfort says, you've worked hard enough. Start tomorrow. You deserve another hour of scrolling. You can do it next week. And sometimes rest really is necessary. But comfort becomes dangerous when rest becomes avoidance. One day becomes tomorrow. Tomorrow becomes next week. Next week becomes next week to next week. And suddenly, years have passed. That's how dreams disappear. Not always through one catastrophic decision. Sometimes, they disappear through thousands of tiny delays. 5 more minutes. 1 more episode. I'll start Monday. I'll do it when I feel motivated. But motivation isn't a reliable foundation. Some mornings you will wake up inspired. Other mornings, you won't. And the people who build extraordinary lives learn something important. You don't need to feel like doing the work to do the work. You need a commitment stronger than your mood. So the next time you choose comfort, ask yourself, am I resting because I need recovery, or am I hiding because I'm afraid to grow? Be honest. That question can expose the difference between a life of comfort and a life of progress. Discipline isn't punishment. Discipline is a form of self-respect. Think about the promises you make to yourself. I'll wake up early. I'll study. I'll exercise. I'll stop wasting my time. I'll finally start. Every time you make a promise, something happens. You lose a little trust in yourself. But every time you keep a promise, even a small one, you build that trust again. That's why discipline matters. Not because waking up early makes you special. Not because working hard makes you better than everyone else. But because discipline teaches you, I can trust myself. Imagine becoming the kind of person who says, if I say I'll do it, I do it. That person doesn't need constant motivation. That person doesn't need someone standing behind them. That person has built internal authority. So don't try to become disciplined overnight. Start with one promise, one small promise. Something simple, something measurable, and keep it. Then tomorrow, make another. Because confidence isn't something you simply think into existence. You earn it. One kept promise at a time. Look at someone successful. You see their confidence, their money, their skills, their results, their lifestyle. And you think, I wish I were already there. But you're comparing your beginning to their harvest. You don't see their first attempts. You don't see the failures. You don't see the years nobody noticed them. You don't see the embarrassing mistakes. You don't see the moments when they wanted to quit. You only see the polished result. That's why comparison is so dangerous. It gives you an incomplete picture. Every expert was once terrible. Every confident speaker once struggled to speak. Every successful entrepreneur once had an idea nobody cared about. Every strong person once had an idea nobody cared about. The beginning is supposed to be uncomfortable. You're supposed to be inexperienced. You're supposed to make mistakes. That's what beginners do. So if you're starting something new, don't ask, why am I not good yet? Ask, am I getting better? That's the only comparison that matters. You don't need to beat everyone. You need to keep moving. Because if you stay in the game long enough, your beginner mistakes eventually become experience. And experience. There will be a season when you have to walk without applause. People may not understand your goal. They may not understand your decisions. Some may even laugh. And that's okay. You don't need everyone to understand a destination they cannot see. Sometimes you need to become quiet. Not because you hate people. Not because you want to isolate yourself. But because you need to hear your own thoughts. Ask yourself, who am I becoming? What do I actually want? What matters to me? What am I doing because I genuinely want it? And what am I doing because I want other people to approve of me? Those questions are uncomfortable, but they're necessary. Because you can spend your entire life building a life that looks impressive and still wake up one day realizing it isn't yours. Don't live for applause. Build something real. And understand this, walking alone for a season doesn't mean you're lost. Sometimes, it's the season where you finally find yourself. Maybe you've told yourself, I'm not disciplined. I'm bad with money. I always quit. I've always been like this. Listen carefully. Your past behavior is evidence of what you've done. It is not proof of what you must always do. Your history can explain you, but it doesn't have to control you. You are not a finished product. You are a person capable of changing through repeated action. If you've always quit, finish something. If you've always procrastinated, start immediately. If you've always been afraid, take one small courageous action. If you've always doubted yourself, keep one promise to yourself. Don't wait until your identity changes. Change your behavior first. Because identity follows evidence. You become disciplined by practicing discipline. You become courageous by doing courageous things. You become reliable by keeping promises. You become stronger by carrying difficult things. So stop saying, that's just who I am. Instead ask, who am I becoming? That is a much more powerful question. Right now, your life is compounding. Every day, the habits you repeat are becoming easier. The thoughts you repeat are becoming familiar. The choices you make are becoming patterns. And patterns eventually become lifestyles. Think about 30 minutes. 30 minutes of reading every day. At first, it doesn't look like much. But after a year, you've spent hundreds of hours learning. Now compare that to 30 minutes of meaningless scrolling every day. One day doesn't matter much, but a year does. 5 years does. 10 years changes everything. That's the power of compounding. Small choices become large outcomes. And here's the beautiful part. You don't have to be perfect. You just need direction. You don't need to win every day. You need to keep moving in the right direction. One page, one workout, one lesson, $1 saved, one difficult conversation, 1 hour of focused work, one difficult conversation. It looks small until time multiplies it. So ask yourself tonight, what am I currently compounding? Your discipline or your distractions? Your knowledge or your excuses? Your health or your neglect? Your confidence or your self-doubt? Because the future doesn't suddenly appear. It grows from repeated days. And today is one of those days. Here's one of the most important questions you can ask yourself. Who are you when nobody is watching? Not who you pretend to be. Not who you show on social media. Not who you want people to think you are. Who are you when there is no audience? When nobody knows whether you worked. Nobody knows whether you kept your promise. Nobody knows whether you gave up. That version of you is building your future. Because public performance can only last so long. Your results reveal your habits. Your life reveals your character. That's why the most important work often happens in silence. When you get up without anyone checking. When you study without anyone praising you. When you work without anyone noticing. When you choose the right thing, even though nobody would know if you chose the wrong one. Those moments matter. Because every private decision is a vote for the person you're becoming. And eventually, those votes become your identity. Build in private. Let the results speak later. And now, we come to the part that matters most. Because everything you've heard means nothing if you do nothing with it. You can watch motivational videos for years. You can save quotes. You can create plans. You can make promises. You can imagine your future. But there is a moment when imagination has to become action. And that moment, you don't need a perfect plan. You don't need to know every step. You don't need to feel fearless. You don't need everyone supporting you. You don't even need to believe completely in yourself yet. You just need enough courage to take the next step. Start small. Start imperfectly. Start while you're afraid. Start while you're uncertain. Start before you're ready. Because beginning does something powerful. It changes your identity. Before you begin, you are someone who intends to change. After you begin, you are someone who is changing. That's a completely different person. So tonight, choose one thing. Not 20. One. Something you've been postponing. Something you know you need to do, and do it. Maybe it's 30 minutes of work. Maybe it's reading 10 pages. Maybe it's learning a skill. Maybe it's applying for the opportunity. Maybe it's exercising. Maybe it's finally starting the project. Maybe it's simply putting your phone down and giving yourself an hour of focused attention. Whatever it is, begin. Then tomorrow do it again. And the next day, again. There will be days when you feel powerful. There will also be days when you feel nothing. Because transformation in any way, it's built from repetition. One day doesn't change your life. But one day becomes another. And another. And another. And eventually, you look back and realize your life changed while you were busy showing up. You didn't become stronger in one dramatic moment. You became stronger every time you refused to quit. You didn't become disciplined overnight. You became disciplined every time you kept a promise. You didn't become confident because someone told you that you could. You became confident because you collected evidence because they could. And one day, you will meet a version of yourself that your current self can barely imagine. A version that wakes up with purpose. A version that doesn't need constant. A version that can handle rejection. A version that can survive difficult seasons. A version that doesn't collapse when things go wrong. A version that knows, I've been through worse, and I'm still here. That's the person you're building. But you won't meet them by waiting. You meet them by working. So when tomorrow gets difficult, remember this. Nobody is coming. And that's okay. Because you don't need someone to come and save you. You need to start saving your future self with the choices you make today. If you've wasted time, stop wasting more. If you've made mistakes, learn from them. If you've failed, begin again. If you've been rejected, redirect. If you've been afraid, move anyway. If you've been alone, if you've lost confidence, build it back through action. And if you don't know where to begin, begin with the smallest thing you can control. Your next hour, your next step, your next promise, your next step. That's enough. You don't have to rebuild your entire life tonight. You just have to prove to yourself that you're willing to begin. Because once you begin, you can continue. Once you continue, you can improve. Once you improve, you can compound. And once you compound, then you become unrecognizable to the person you used to be. That's how lives change, not all at once, but quietly. choice by choice, day by day, habit by habit. Until one morning, you look at your life and realize, I built this. Not because life was easy, not because you had everything, not because everyone believed in you, but because you decided to keep going. And that's the truth I want you to remember after this video ends. Your past is not your prison. Your circumstances are not your identity. Your failures are not your finality. Your fear is not a command. And your current situation is not your final destination. You still have choices. You still have time. You still have another step. And as long as you have another step, you have a direction. So take it. Take the step. Then take another. And another. Until the road that once looked impossible becomes the road you walked. Because the life you want isn't hidden somewhere waiting for you. It's being built. Right now. Through your habits. Through your decisions. Through the things you do when nobody is watching. And the person capable of building that life? That's you. You were waiting for someone to come. But maybe you were never supposed to wait. Maybe you were supposed to become stronger, become disciplined, become courageous, become responsible, become the person you kept hoping someone else would help you become. So stop waiting, stop postponing, stop asking when your life will finally begin. Begin it. Begin it with one choice, one action, one promise. And then, tomorrow, keep going. Because nobody is coming. And that isn't the end of your story. That's where your story finally begins. And before you leave, don't let this become another video that made you feel something for 20 minutes, only for you to forget it tomorrow. Take one thing from this message, one idea, one action, and use it. If this message reached something real inside you, subscribe and stay with me. And write one word in the comments. Who are you becoming? Not who you've been. Not who people expect you to be. Who are you becoming? Write that word. And then, live like you mean it. Because your next chapter isn't going to write itself. You have to write it. Start now.